Good morning. Welcome to the Awesemo Betting Show on the Awesemo Odds channel. We appreciate you waking up early, maybe super early, depending on where you are around the country, around the world. Ben Rasa is here after we got through a college football Saturday, just to bring you now as much comprehensive insight as possible leading up to a full day of betting week one NFL football. So we are back at JazzRaz DFS at Shander Show for me. Tyler's in the house, so make sure you say what's up in the chat if you haven't already. BetMGM is powering the show. We'll tell you all about these great opportunities you can take advantage of, not just only their odds, but also this incredible offer that we have, risk-free bet and beyond. But Rasa, we're here Sunday. We're going to fly through as much as humanly possible at this ungodly hour, but everybody's up and ready to go, man. Everybody's got their coffee. They're fired up, and they're ready to go.
I don't have no coffee. I don't drink coffee.
What do you drink?
I am up. I am ready to go. Chad is ready to go.
That's definitely ready.
It's the first, you're going to hear it a million times, but it truly is Christmas morning. It's just the first week of NFL. It's unlike anything that we have. We got things started yesterday in the college streets, some good, some bad. Congratulations to your Iowa Hawkeyes. They dismantled my Cyclones. But all in all, pretty good day. I'm very excited to dive into this.
Look, they're ups, they're downs, right? I see our buddy John Shelton, who was firing on that Michigan parlay and all across. So we appreciate everybody who was with us on Friday across the board from college to the NFL, now coming back on this little microscope that we have. EMAC is in the house as well. We're fired up, man. Everybody here is ready to rock, man. And that's the beauty of where we are on this Sunday morning is we have so many different angles, different games, some that people will forget because they're ugly on the surface, like that Jacksonville Texans game, but will provide a lot of value. So let's jump in, right, as we kind of have throughout this show, doing it from both what's happened to also what we can expect, looking forward. So this is really our first NFL Sunday. We talked about the college slate a lot on Friday and really that one game Thursday show. We've talked a little bit about some individual bets that we like for today, but this is really your first chance to give us all your comprehensive view and how you really approach, especially week one on the slate.
No doubt. And the thing that's unique about week one is some of these spreads have had months to marinate. And as we look in kind of the news and the notes of the day, some of these things, it's funny. I want to talk about the Colts first because their news, it happens so far into the offseason that I feel like they're almost peaking at the right time. Quentin Nelson now is expected to play. Carson Wentz. These were guys a month ago, Etan, when we were doing our fantasy football show, we were talking about, man, maybe by week 5, they could look healthy. Maybe they're healthy today. These scripts are changing on the fly here.
Yeah, and that's going to be something to kind of look at as far as if people have just looked over the golf ball too long and then thought, all right, you know what, let me just go back to something here. You mentioned peaking at the right time with injury. I still go back to the quarterback situation there with the Colts. Has it changed your mind at all with Indianapolis, or is it simply just a matter of what you are taking away from kind of how the board's been looking? Because I can't trust the Colts at all.
No, I'm not even saying that I trust them immensely. I do find it, though, that, I think most people, including me, were thinking that they were going to get Seattle far and away walking wounded with Carson Wentz and obviously their best lineman. It looks more and more that might not be the case. So I just kind of wanted to highlight how much the news can transition. And then you have a team like New Orleans. I don't know, maybe it was just me, but during the offseason, I wasn't thinking that they would be super mangled. Certainly Michael Thomas. Now Lattimore pops up on the injury. We're going to talk about that because if they don't have him, Roby suspended, Devontae Adams is going to have a field day today. I know he's going to be a popular DFS play, but I think we're going to be talking about his props later in this show.
Yeah, it's a great point to kind of examine here. We were looking at as far as Tyrann Mathieu throughout the week in that game with Cleveland and status up in the air. So just how things have been bet accordingly leading up. I do want to get back real quick and kind of just slam the door on that Colts game. BetMGM, where we have it here across the board, powering the show with our odds. It's still a 3-point game. And I know it's kind of fluctuated 2.5 to 3. Can't imagine it's going to go any higher by kick. But that just seems like such a manageable number for a team in Seattle that started hot last year, ATS at least. And you also look at just how little we've seen of Carson Wentz. So sometimes I don't necessarily know. Now, it's not all the time, but this might be the rarity here, where actually having Carson on the field doesn't really clear up a lot of the uncertainty. That line is still pretty short for a team in Seattle who has shown they can play well early on, both in the season and on the slate.
No doubt. They are one of the teams that have shown the dreaded 10 a.m. kickoff, or 11 whatnot. Not a huge deal. It's still a road game in a dome. It's not the easiest place to play. And I respect the Colts. I do think that they have a pretty decent offense. The spread kind of feels right on, though. And as we kind of look to these early games, for me, there are better spots on the board, Eitan. I know you kind of looked over it. I'm going to point a couple out. One of them, and we talked briefly about this Friday, but I want to circle back to it. It's the ugliest game on the slate, Jacksonville and the Texans. I think this is going to be one of the slowest, ugliest games, and I'm taking the under in this spot. When you look at from last year, the Texans were the slowest team in the league in terms of plays per game. The Jaguars were 26th. Now Tyrod Taylor is there. I think he's going to be a game manager. You've got Trevor Lawrence and all these weapons, but how do they merge immediately? So this one, it's sitting at 45.5. We talked, that's a key number because 24-21 is a very reasonable score for a game like this. I'm going to go under. That's one of my favorite early games, in terms of bets.
Yeah, and I think it moved a little bit, right? Was it 44.5 when we spoke earlier in the week at Thursday?
It was 45.5.
40. So it hasn't moved at all, hasn't budged.
Good.
Okay.
I like that number.
No. I thought if anything, it moved a point up, which is even better as far as for the under is concerned. I'm just thinking I didn't realize that it budged. No, I did not. Pardon me. I love that. We've talked about this. Just the one thing that I can bank on this game is their defense in Jacksonville. And so many wild cards, probably positives from a DFS standpoint with Houston that you can't really put money on from that standpoint. No, that's a great play. And that's probably going to be a lot of people's anchor play, especially after hearing you. We haven't actually, it's at 45 now, I see on BetMGM. So that hook is gone, Ben.
That's why, you want to create that value.
That's why you give it out on Thursday.
That's right. We alluded to this one. That was one of the ones we gave out. And I want to kind of pass back to you because I got to ask, because you do some crazy things. I know you're high on the Niners. I know a lot of people from Survivor to money line pieces to just general are low on the Lions and high on the Niners. I like them too, obviously. What are you doing with them? Because you have so many options. You could lay the 8 points. You could take the first half. You could take a money line. You could put them in teasers. How do you kind of organize what you want to do with your Niners?
I was thinking about this here, and I think the two general approaches would be one, to apply it in a teaser, especially because at 8.5 right now, as we've seen this thing move up a point, it's still manageable where you're going through 7, you're going through 3. I mean, that's a big time teaser there for a key number 8. Part of me is where it's gone. So look, it shot up right to 8.5, and now it's starting to come back down. At least that hook is gone. So if you could work even a 6-point teaser where you'll get a better return back on there, you're still moving through those two key numbers. I also really like the kind of Alabama mentality here. Now, I know it's a little bit different last night against a squad that is just really hard to get up for, but I think the close out a game in the first half and avoid getting bored in the second half, even though it's an NFL game, I would probably defer to that. But look, I think that if you wanted to take this, and I know I posted this up here at the chat, but very realistically, Ben, I think that the confidence play here would be to bump this up. Now, if you wanted to push it to 9, 9.5, and really want to cover up until 10, knowing that you're covered through 10, then I think it's worth a shot here because you're going to get a very realistic chance that San Francisco puts this game out. We know Detroit. We know that they're not going to be good down 20, down 24 points. Again, it may be great from a DFS standpoint. Swift may get a ton of looks still in the game, but that's pretty much it. I mean, that life is out of that football team. They're going to be going neck and neck with Houston to see who the worst team in the league is. So I think this is one of these no-brainers. I'm not going to overthink this one. I'm really confident on San Fran, even first quarter here. Now, look, this is a belligerent play, but can you not make the argument that based on what we've seen so far with San Fran, the fact that everybody is back, 9.5. I mean, can you get a 10-0? Can you get a 13-3 first quarter lead for San Fran? You're getting even money back at the very least on BetMGM. It's not one that I would play, but I wouldn't slow one of our favorite, chatters on here down either with it.
So I don't mind taking the first half. I don't mind taking exposure. The one thing I always want to kind of stress, though, if you're going to do some alternate lines, you want to try to make sure you're not giving up, a ton of value in terms of how much the VIG is moving. So I just want to point out an example here with San Francisco. They're an 8-point favorite. And that's obviously I see minus 115 out there, minus 110. If you move them to say 9.5, as you're talking about, you only move it to plus 100. That's only gaining 10 cents, but you're moving 1.5 points. So that's not exactly great. That's like 3 1/3 cents for every half a point. So you want to try to incur as much value. I think for me, I like what you're talking about in this first half because Mostert, Trey Sermon, Jimmy G, should be very reliable. I'm not saying he's a world beater, but he's good enough. And I think the Lions don't have much to really slow down this attack. The Niners, it was a throwaway season. Their defense comes in healthy. I know it's a very chalky, obvious pick. If you're going conservative in Survivor, if you're going conservative through, in teasers and whatnot, I get it. I have no problem laying the points with the Niners really in any capacity today.
Let me throw one back out on you and putting both you and Tyler here on the spot. So on BetMGM, they have the 1-game parlays. And if you were staying the San Fran Detroit game here, you can see the 1-game parlay and then the 3 options that they have. And again, we have a fantastic promo code that you should be using here. Just all we ask in return is that you just smash that like button, hit that thumbs up button here. Make sure you're subscribed to the Awesemo Odds channel, the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel, the Awesemo DFS channel. We'll tell you all about it before we get out of here. A ton of programming here across the board to get you ready for the NFL kickoff today at 1:00 Eastern. But look, this is one thing that jumped out, and it's the first one, right? Because you get a little crazy with some of these other ones as far as what the game ends on, even total points. Take a risk, that's fine. But look at that first one here. This one I think is a little more manageable. We're assuming that the 49ers are getting out early, race to 5 points. That's a touchdown. So not difficult to think that even if the Lions squeeze a field goal in, you're going to get a better chance of the Niners, with a touchdown. Team points, Lions under 13.5. That, I think, is the risk that we're taking here. But then the third one, team touchdowns, 49ers over 2.5 first half. Again, if you're playing the Niners first half, I think this makes the most sense as far as what they'd be able to do. So I think what you're getting back is plus 850 for a risk play of the Lions, keeping it under 14 points for the game.
I see what you're saying because the other two pieces of that are pretty probable. But, again, that's where you're taking a specific game script. There's probably other ways to do that. I mean, you're getting a nice multiplier. You could look to the Lions team total if you wanted to short it. Now that's going to be more of a straight bet. You're going to probably get a better, 13.5 is a rough number because of course, they could score 2 touchdowns and you're going to lose by the hook on that bet a lot of the time. But again, that's where, we're always preaching. There's something to say about you want to create the most value, of course. If you want to take a small amount of your bankroll and build an exotic parlay or do something that's probably not the highest EV, I get it. There is an entertainment value to some of these type of bets. You just want to be careful because if you're constantly chasing these type of bets, you're going to bleed out. And that's what we are trying to avoid here. You want to make sure you're structuring your portfolio with some of the more probable outcomes in addition to these, 8, 9, 10 to 1 type plays.
Yeah, we're not giving out 16-leg parlays here.
No, we leave that to the subs at Awesemo. We had some crazy, and believe me, that was not I would love to take credit for those picks, but not Awesemo subs. That's why you want to get in our premium Slack chat. We have so many people just doing so many fun things, if nothing else. It was a great route. You see people dropping tickets in there, having some fun. Great community in there. I love to be part of that team.
Now, before we move to another game, you've got some individual value here, though. This is a guy you've been railing banging the drum for all offseason is on the Awesemo Fantasy Football show that you and I do with Lofty on the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel. This is your guy here.
I am. So, one of the things, player props are out. There's a million of them you can dig. I'm going to go to TJ Hockinson over 4.5 catches today at minus 115. It's a simple product of, you already talked about this in what you were saying. You like San Francisco early in the game. Okay, well, if that comes to fruition, and it seems likely that it does, the Lions are going to be trailing. And then you look at this team with Jared Goff. A, I think he's going to be under a tremendous amount of pressure. B, Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones ain't walking through that door. They've got really nothing left on the outside. I think Hawkinson's quickly going to assert himself as a target share, in terms of target share, right at the top of this Lions team. So it may not be the most efficient. It might be some meaningless targets. I think he's going to get peppered today, though. I think he goes over 5 relatively easily. I'm going to buy on Hockinson early, and it's not a product of believing in the Lions. It's actually a product of believing that they're going to have to throw very often late in this game to even try to play catch up.
Yeah, it's interesting, the difference with Stafford, who has the arm and has the confidence in that arm, versus Goff, who's probably shot right now, where Hawkinson's value, which was already high for a good tight end on a bad team, especially a team that threw a lot, you can make the argument, Ben, that Hawkinson's value increases at least this variance to start the season, because you can lean on the fact that Goff is going to go to a much easier security blanket than unproven wide receivers on the outside, especially if you're down 14, 17, 24, 30 points.
No doubt about it. He's got to stay healthy, but that's like everybody else. I know he's a little banged up coming into the season, but we're going to see where he stands on that. And if he is healthy, I think Goff is going to quickly go to him. I mean, the Rams offense is very hard to take some of that and see if it's going to translate, because Sean McVay, he's a pretty unique coach and he put Goff in a lot of situations, but it wasn't like he was shy about going to Higbee or Everett in past years. So I think Hockinson will be a focal point. He's a DFS guy that we're going to discuss certainly all day today. I'm going to go to the prop market, though. I don't think it's crazy to think that he is active and he can push over 5 at -115 too. It's not a bad number. I'm not laying any crazy juice.
All right, let me speak to your heart here on this other player prop. We'll move to Cincinnati and Minnesota. And I think that with this belief, this resurgence, of course, and the odds that are associated with the Vikings, I get it that they've been thrust back into the conversation, rightfully so, of competing with Green Bay for that division. But this game, this specific matchup, as much as Joe Burrow will be throwing the football, as much as they want to throw the football, there's a matchup there to take advantage of, and that's Joe Mixon on the ground. That's the one area where you can really take full advantage, at least last year, with this Vikings defense on the ground. Mixon's number is low, I think, because the belief that he may not get as many carries, but you can definitely see some big play potential, as well as, counter game script of, if it's not a fit, drop back and throw the ball 50 times each for both Cousins and Burrow, which is also likely with Cook taking a lot of the volume up on Minnesota side. So Mixon at 65.5 over -110 return at BetMGM. Really like that just because of the matchup. I know the volume may not be in his favor heading into the game, Ben, but plenty of opportunity to just break one, as well as counter game script and get maybe 2 to 5 more touches than we're expecting.
It's going to be very interesting to see. That's a game I think a lot of people are very, high on DFS, and I get it, the passing attack. You've got Higgins, you've got Boyd, you've got Chase. There's a lot to like there. Mixon, though, he's a player, and I think that you look at this Minnesota rush defense, it's not in the Bengals or Texans league of just atrocious, but it was in the bottom half, 4.6 yards per rushing attempt allowed. That's no good. And I do think that Mixon, there's opportunities in a 3-point spread. This is this is going to be a blowout. They're going to be throwing. The Bengals could easily win today. He could get upwards of 20 carries on the ground. And then you're looking at, can he average 3.5 yards a carry if he gets that type of volume? That's pretty, justifiable if he can get there. The question is going to be, if he has 14 carries, if he has 15 carries, he's got to be pretty efficient there. It's not like you can't get bailed out. So I like Mixon. I think he's going to be very involved. The question, Eitan, I think we're both kind of beating around the bush a little, is can the Bengals line do anything? Because that you can't run if there are guys tackling you in the backfield. And we saw last year, Mixon at times had no opportunity because this line is just atrocious.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's going to be maybe the battle of who screws it up less.
Correct.
Or least. Yes.
Yeah.
So let me throw it back to you here in the early games now. because I see that you had a play. Now, you didn't say Colts money line earlier. Did you just hold this on purpose?
Well, it's one that I wanted to bring up. Just because I always like to throw in, not to force it, but it's fun to have a money line dog. And in this spread, I didn't see a ton of games on this slate where I felt super good. I don't want to back Pittsburgh money line. I'm certainly not backing Detroit money line. The Bengals,
Not
I looked
Cincinnati?
at. Cincinnati, yeah. I think Cincinnati's a pretty reasonable home dog. But the Colts are also a home dog. You could get plus 125 there or take the 3 points. And like I said, I am very encouraged about they're coming in healthier than it seems. I know the narrative has been what a disaster offseason. Wentz, Nelson, these guys are key components. I trust these receivers, I think, a little more than most. I'm very high on Pittman overall, Taylor in the backfield. And we'll see. I mean, Seattle's a team, credit to them. They always seem to show up. Every year it seems like, all right, this is it for them. And they still rebound. They make the playoffs. But I think you could take a shot here. I lean to the Colts with stealing this game. I think that people are a little overvaluing Seattle. There's just as many questions over there. They haven't had the best offseason either, with Wilson being upset, their left tackle held out. I know these things are minor, but I'm going to roll the dice with your former boy and say that Carson Wentz today looks all right.
Unbelievable. I cannot believe think about this. The slander of all the positive, a 12-win football team last year in one of the toughest divisions doesn't get any benefit of the doubt. A guy who was the MVP for the first 4, maybe 6, 8 weeks of the season, and Russell Wilson gets no benefit of the doubt. Team that plays well, as you mentioned, on that 1:00 Eastern start. And Carson Wentz wasn't even a football player last year. He was just a vessel out there on the field.
He's going to be well rested. He's going to be, I'm telling you,
Carson
Wentz, from the first show we did this offseason, when we were talking about buy low candidates on the fantasy football side, I said for quarterback, Carson Wentz. And then listen, there's another factor that I want to bring up here. There is a chance, and I don't think it's that unrealistic, that Jonathan Taylor just goes nuts. And if he does, I think the Colts are more than content to say, you know what, 25 carries, go ahead. You carry us here. We'll drain this clock. If Seattle's front can't stop you, we will be more than content to lean on him. I mean, I know I always go to the college side of things. I mean, he comes from a program in Wisconsin. Their strategy was literally, you rush the ball 40 times, we'll worry about the rest. I don't think that that's a crazy scenario. One thing, though, historically, both the Colts and the Seahawks have done a great job limiting on the ground. They're both two of the strongest run defenses we have.
I think it's a great point that this is not going to be a blowout. And let me reiterate, I agree with you 100%. I think the Colts have the capability of keeping this close. I just don't want to be on the side of it being, 7 minutes, 30 seconds to go in the fourth quarter, and you need a play from Carson Wentz.
I hope it's there. I hope it's there.
Ben, yes. I lived that life last year. You don't want to live that life.
No, I'm living that life. I am living that life. I hope they put the ball in Wentz's hands. We're going to find out, because I think that's a very real scenario, that this game is competitive and that the Colts are going to need to make a drive, sustain a drive late, and we're going to see how they hold up.
We already have John Shelton firing again from yesterday. He's all fired up. Yes, we're going to get to this one coming up in a minute. Again, just a reminder, not only to smash away on that thumbs up button, make sure you're subscribed here to the Awesemo Odds channel. You can leave us a comment, especially if you're watching. Let's say you pick this up 9:30, 10:30 in the morning, 11 as you get closer to kick. Still, leave us what you think is your biggest lock. Lock it up is what we call it there, your confidence bet, if you will. And then take advantage of our promo code Awesemo at BetMGM. You get a risk-free bet of up to $1,000 to use. And then you can do some damage with that, especially if you're tailing a bunch of Ben's plays here. Make sure you use our promo code Awesemo. Let me come back to this game in the early real quick here with the Philadelphia Eagles and Falcons. I know we gave this out on Friday as a little bit more of an aggressive play, but I think just to look at it where it is from the easiest and I think simplest destination, lay the 0.5 point for Atlanta in the first quarter, get a 110 return. It's a decent return for something that's basically just winning the first quarter. I know that you've taken away the push there as well, but otherwise the money line is minus 145. So to lay the half point again on a team that is going to take time. Yes, Devontae Smith can have a great game. Jalen Hurts can have a great game. The Eagles could actually win this thing, although I wouldn't bet it. But the first quarter is where I feel the most confident that experience overtakes just being new, inexperienced, for lack of a better term, to counter. So that's where I really think the point of attack would be for this game from a team standpoint. Don't even worry about that 3.5 spread that we have on BetMGM with the hook back in play. Just take the Falcons to lay the half point in the first quarter and get a 110 return plus.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, obviously that half point is somewhat key because a lot of games are tied at the end of the first quarter. But, I do think that the good thing is points should be put up. I'd be stunned if you're going to get the 0-0 or the 3-3, something like that. Atlanta's still got a prolific attack. We've talked about Ridley on the outside, Pitts, Gage. I don't think there's going to be, I'm not saying Julio's not amazing. I don't think that's going to be a drastic loss for how the team functions. I'll be honest. And you bring in Mike Davis as well. So I get that. I have no problem with that. I actually want to ask you about one prop in this game, if I can, because this is your account.
Please.
I feel like the books are not yet giving Jalen Hurts. I know he's not Lamar, but he's certainly Lamar's tangential. He is very keen to pull the ball down and run. And I feel like maybe early in the year, we can just kindly, I don't want to say blindly back, but at the same time, almost macro buy on Jalen Hurts over rushing yards and see if he's being more than willing to scramble each and every week.
I love it. I think that you're going to get a really good opportunity to take advantage of, again, offenses breaking down. And it's not even the offensive line. I mean, the offensive line is healthy right now. He's going to get protection, but Jalen Hurts also holds the ball a lot. So that can lead to sacks, but it can also lead to extending plays, which usually for a guy who can move means that he's moving and he's moving. So there's a good chance that not even the design runs that we've seen implemented in the playbook. I know with Joe Flacco, it's kind of difficult to see anything that's designed for a run, but we're seeing this, at least from practices, that they want Jalen Hurts to be active and move around in the pocket, out of the pocket as well. So they're designing plays for that. And then to your point, this is a brand new offense for him. This is a brand new offense for everybody, including rookies like Devontae Smith. So there's a really good chance that Jalen Hurts, even if you can get a first half, I think, line. I know that Ben's rolling his eyes. Here we go, Shander. Another first half play. Even if you could get them on the first half, like if you can get, I think, Hurts overall rushing yards and first half rushing yards, I think there's a really good shot. I wouldn't say week in and week out like the total play that you're saying, but I think this week there's a really good shot that he's bouncing around down there in Atlanta, and you can get not only that total, but that first half as well.
Yeah, I think you need to be creative with it. I just think that Jalen Hurts is one of the players right now that this is one of the key things with betting in general. When you come into a season, I'm not saying it's all narrative based by any stretch, but if you're evaluating someone or a team differently than the market, it's either a time to say, you know what, I'm going to wait and see because maybe I'm off. Or if you're very confident, you say, I'm going to buy before everyone pays attention. And Jalen Hurts, to me, I'm evaluating him a little different than I think the public. I think this guy is going to be a threat for the 100-yard bonus in some weeks. In the books, they've got him at 49.5 rushing yards. I have a feeling that number is going to stick pretty early in the season until they adjust. I'm going to back it. I think he may take some unnecessary sacks, but he's going to have a handful of scrambles each and every week, in addition to his designed runs that I think makes him a really elusive runner this entire year.
Real quick, I want to get to these two lock it ups that we have on the chat, and just leave us here. If you have your confidence bet of the week, lock it up. Just tell us that. Yo, Rasa, fill in a blank, lock it up. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already coming in here. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I just wanted to stay on this game really quick because there's a sneaky parlay here in game, of course, not the one game parlay, but the parlay itself. Jalen Hurts and Matt Ryan both to record 300 plus passing yards. And I did a show yesterday with EMAC on Prize Picks, and he came fully researched with Jalen Hurts going over 300 yards in the final couple of games of the season. Matt Ryan will throw. We know Matt Ryan will throw. I think the bigger question is Hurts. Hurts is going to have plenty of chances to go over 300 yards. He did it with the dog shit offense last year with Doug Peterson. I think there's a really good chance there. It pays back then plus 525. So it's not an amazing return by any means, but I think for really two guys who have shown you that they can consistently go over that number, that's not that big of an ask.
I think if you're going to go that route, you're going to look to what you're talking about with the Falcons first quarter style, because if the Eagles get out, they're going to be more than content to say, don't make any mistakes, Hurts, maybe keep it on the ground a little more. Matt Ryan's going to be throwing. I think if they're ahead, he'll be throwing. If they're behind, they're just not built to really control the ball. But I think the Eagles might be. So if you're going to do something like that, I think the game script you're banking on, Falcons look good early. Jalen Hurts is staging a comeback. He has to get going. And then you hope you get something out of Smith and Rager. I think clearly the tight ends can help, but you're going to need some downfield threats to push over that number.
We're going to get your thoughts on the afternoon games into the evening. Before that, John Shelton, David Njoku, over 15.5 receiving yards. Lock it up, Rasa.
Okay. That's an interesting game. Not a guy, I'll be honest, that I've taken a look at, but some of the best props each and every week are guys that people aren't paying attention to because the lines are inefficient. And if you've said, you know what, Cleveland, they've shown that they can attack this Chiefs team. We saw it in the playoffs. I think Njoku is still going to be a factor even with Hooper. I have no problem with that. We also had Colin in chat, likes Washington minus 6.5, which is an alternative line, 2-1 on that.
Yep.
I like that. I actually think that's a really interesting line against Herbert. We talked about Chase Young being able to get pressure. I don't mind that. See, this is what I'm talking about, chat. These are a couple lock it ups there that I think I could get on board with.
Look at this. Now, we've lost all the value on the surface, so why not push it, right? This was a 1.5 to 2 point dog that has now been bet into a home favorite through 0. So now, right, we're on that Niners mentality of if you have this confidence play that this is a Washington bet, you're getting 6.5, right? You're getting plus 200, as you mentioned on BetMGM back. I love it. You're still under 7, and you're essentially getting a touchdown victory here for a team in LA whose quarterback could easily be on his back as much as he's actually completing passes. Like, you could do the over-under of what's happening more. Just Herbert, not sacks, but just Herbert on his back versus completed passes for Herbert. Like, I don't know what's going to happen more. And for that, I think there's enough just in this Washington. See, you guys chastise me on the Niners, but you come back on the alternative spread here.
I mean, again, alternative spreads is a dangerous game because the truth is you are sacrificing value and you want to pick your spots. I don't mind this one as much, though you're not. If Washington wins, Washington loses the game, it doesn't matter whether you had -1, -6, -30, you lost. It doesn't matter. The only way this sucks is if Washington wins by 3 or 4, something like that, and you would have covered and now you don't. That's the risk you're incurring. I do think Washington's a pretty erratic team, though, where there's a lot of scenarios Herbert's going to have little to no success, or he torches them and Derwin James, shows that this is a new Chargers team. You're going to be in big trouble if that's the case, regardless of what you do. So I don't think it's the worst spot to do that. You still want to be somewhat selective with these alternative lines in life, though.
Where to begin, Ben, on the 4:00 games here? Your call, your play.
Some good ones. They kind of stacked it up. I'm going to go to the game that I want to discuss the most, and I think is one of the more interesting storylines, is this Saints-Packers game. Neutral site, a lot of big weapons. Callaway might be the obvious pay down option on the DFS side. I don't think that's a stretch. Let's start with Devontae Adams, though. No one can guard him in general. I mentioned the Saints corners are banged up. Is it not like just first touchdown you could look at, over 7.5 receptions you could look at? Everything with Devontae Adams going over seems like it's trending towards being on my card today.
Yeah, the beauty of this is, well, two things. One, they can be up by 14 points and they're still going to throw the football, and he's still going to be out there and he's still going to be the target of it. And he has both. I think this is what the beauty of always betting overs, or, matchups aside, but it's really difficult to find a matchup that takes him out of a game, where he's a volume guy, but he's a big play guy at the same time. Like 2 catches can go for huge plays, but you also know that he's going to be targeted 15, 16 times, even if they're down or up, depending on the swing of it. So in this particular case, I love Green Bay, absolutely love Green Bay. I've pushed it because it didn't move much at all. Look, it's 3.5 right now, minus 105. It's juiced to the Saints getting 3.5 on a neutral site. It just doesn't seem, something seems off to me, especially when you remove home field and you apply that true line. So I would push Green Bay all the way up to 5.5. And just because well, look, here's the thing. This is a 3-point line. Forget where this opened up, because this opened up at 2.5, where the Packers were getting 2.5 for like a blink of an eye. Sharps and you and everybody jumped all over it. Yeah. Thank you. Because now you push this thing over all the way to 3.5.
Wasn't me. No.
They moved the game to Jacksonville. New Orleans is already dealing. Like, how does that not impact the Saints more? The Packers were already going on the road. How does that not impact the Saints more, especially with that field and that advantage that they have? For it to only budge 1 point and then come back down to a half, it seems a little off. So I would push it a little bit and get a better return. Bottom line, though, back to your point about Adams, if I like the Packers at minus 5.5, there's no way that your totals with Adams across the board don't hit.
Yeah, I mean, you said so. Just Devontae Adams, anytime touchdown score is minus 165. That's a little much, but first touchdown plus 550. I kind of like that. I like over 7.5. And you mentioned this. This is one of my favorite things about Devontae Adams. He has at least 1 or 2 catches that are just not even real catches. They just give him the ball on that fake screen pass that is literally impossible to defend. It's either by the goal line or they just want to get him the ball. So it's not like you're saying, oh man, this guy, he's got to make, 8 downfield circus catches. Not at all. They will get him the ball easily in space if they need to. And Aaron Rodgers is not shy about peppering him with 15, 20 targets in a given week. The final point with this, everybody respects the Saints run defense. It's been like that for years now. They were first in the entire league, tied with Tampa Bay in rushing yards allowed per attempt last year at 3.8. I really see no chance that Aaron Jones is running wild on them. So whether they're up or down, Devontae Adams is going to be quite busy in this game. This is one of my favorite props, but if I can, Eitan, I want to flip it to the other side of this game, because do we not look to Kamara a little bit, given that Michael Thomas is not there, Traquan Smith is not there? Who's going to catch the ball from Jameis if not Kamara?
Yeah, I think that it's one of these where you can't overthink this play, right? Because Sean Payton's not going to overthink this either. Sean Payton's not devising 40% of the snaps on offense to go away from Kamara because Green Bay thinks that the ball's going to him the entire time. Like, there's certain players, and he's one of them, that you can withstand a game plan because he's so good. Now, it's about finding space. It's about working him. But, yeah, the targets don't go away. The volume for Kamara doesn't go away. And, yeah, to your point, it increases. And he is somebody that you can move around. If it's pre-snap, if it's somebody once you start looking at, moving him out of the backfield, if it's quick slants, if it's screens, ways in which you can get him out, swings. So, yeah, I think just from Kamara touching the football, this is similar to Devontae Adams, where there is nothing from a game script that would impact his volume by any means. I know we talk about that a lot from a fantasy standpoint, but in this case, absolutely sign me up for both guys going over, because no matter what the situation is, they'd have to be down by 30 and he'd have to be on the bench to not get the volume and touch that you're looking, and you're just asking for that bet to go over.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. They have to get him involved. His targets, as you were talking about, they're some of the easy. He converts his targets to receptions at, I don't have this in front of me, but it's got to be at one of the highest clips in the league, because they're 2-yard passes. They get him the ball in space. And listen, Jameis, he's not Drew Brees. He's not going to want to check down, but this is a situation he has no choice. You've got these guys over the top. He's going to have to look to Kamara a lot in the offense, given the structure of it right now. So over 5.5 at just minus 120. I was stunned. I really thought this would be more in the 6.5 range. It seems like a foregone conclusion to me that Kamara, unless Sean Payton has a radically different game plan than I'm expecting, Alvin Kamara is going to have 6 or more catches today.
One more in the afternoon before we hit the evening and get out of here. And again, use our promo code if you haven't already on BetMGM Awesemo for a risk-free bet of up to $1,000. Just hit that like button and subscribe to the Awesemo Odds channel in return. Denver, I mean, this has moved a little bit. Now it's at 2.5. It's under that great magic number of 3. I don't mind laying the 115 on BetMGM under 3. I'm just amazed that this line has moved in favor of Denver, and even the money line, as manageable as it is. I don't know. I feel like I might be missing something because I have the Broncos walking away with this. Now, I'm not going to push the alternative line before you jump to any crazy, rash conclusions about me here, sir. But I do really, really, really like Denver minus 2.5, enough to where I think that's a nice little anchor play for if it's a parlay or a couple of other legs there.
Yeah, I was waiting for the old, like, if Daniel Jones kicks a field goal, I get 30-1 if it hits the upright. No, I mean, this is a spot. I'm with you, brother. I think the Broncos are just primed to start well. Teddy Bridgewater, he's a solid game manager. I don't, sometimes people use that as a negative. To me, that's a positive here. He's got Sutton. He's got Judy. He's got Melvin Gordon. He's got weapons. On the other side, Daniel Jones, I mean, I guess the jury's still out, but it seems like more and more people are realizing this may not be the answer. He's got a Saquon Barkley that is working back from major injury. He's got a Kenny Golladay who's going to play, but doesn't seem to be 100%. Shepard is there. Ingram seems doubtful. It's not the best cast around him, and he's going against a Broncos defense that I do respect. So, yes, the Giants are home. That helps. Good number, though, for the Broncos. You're basically saying, are they going to win this game? To me, the answer to that is yes. I think Denver gets it done today.
All right, give us your best play across the board on the Sunday night slate.
Sunday night slate, so the Rams-Bears game?
Yes.
This is a tough one. I think for me, I'm going to go to the under. I see 46.5, and it's just a product of two defenses that I really trust, and then a team in Chicago that they've got Andy Dalton. I think his goal is going to be don't turn it over. Don't do anything stupid. Let's see what we can get out of Montgomery. Let's see if we can keep Stafford in this offense off the field. I don't know what to expect from the Rams offense, I'll be honest, but I trust these defenses. It's not the same as what you said earlier in the show, but you kind of said in that Houston-Jacksonville game, one of the only things you kind of know is the defense is going to be, at least solid. There's no major changes. That's kind of how I feel about these teams. I know the defenses are going to be good. I don't know if the offenses are going to be. Tough game to bet with the Rams being 7.5-point favorite. That's a bad number. I'm going to take the under and think that it's an ugly, ugly game tonight.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, really difficult, I think, to gauge by all means. All right, so everybody, you heard that. Lock in the under, but that doesn't mean here, as we have it, Ben will start, and I'll round things out here. Or maybe I should start, and then you remove all that shit, you cleanse the palate of the show, and we end on a good note. Should we do that for lock it up?
Do that. I do want to say real quick, couple things, Chad. It's so cool to see everybody here up early. Obviously, I know you guys know this, but after this show, you head back to the Awesemo main channel, and then you are just being led up to lock. We have shows from 9 to 10, 10 to 11:30, 11:30 to 12, and 12 to 1, breaking down every angle of this slate. I will be there. Everyone will be there. Obviously, after you subscribe to this channel, make sure you head over there. But yeah, Eitan, I think you lead us off here. Let's do a 1-2 lock it up, knock these out of the park, and then set the table for the DFS slate.
All right, so I'm going to go. I don't love the hook here, but I am getting on BetMGM an even return for it. So there's a little bit of give and take. The money line is workable for me. I'm not anti-laying the 165 on this. I'm very confident, especially because I think people are not confident in Mac Jones. I'm going to lay the 3.5 for the Patriots at home, open things up. A lot of guys come back on that defense. We know that Mac Jones isn't going to be asked to save the world in one game. So I'm very confident that the system around him, I know Aguilar banged up, but the system around him is going to work, and that defense is going to be menacing. This is a tough one for Miami to come out here. So I really like the Patriots opening up. I'll lay the 3.5 at home.
I like that. I think that Damian Harris is in a really good spot today on the DFS side, just to give people a preview of what you'll be seeing coming up.
Yes.
Tim Johnson, Thielen over 4.5. I like that as well. My lock it up before we get out of here. It's going to be what we just talked about. I Alvin Kamara over 5.5 receptions. I hate to go right back to it, but Eitan, I mean, they've got nobody on that offense. Traquan Smith, Michael Thomas, Jameis is not going to be able to just sling it down the field every time. They've got to get Kamara the ball. I don't think they're going to try to run it with him and pound it into the center of the line. Easy dump offs early and often. He's going to clear it. -120. That is a good spot. Just for context, this line has been moving. It opened at 4.5. That is long gone. It's going to continue to move, I think. Get it at 5.5, -120. And let's start this season off right.
Amazing. Hit us up again. Make sure you're subscribed to all three of the channels that we have here. The Awesemo Odds channel, the Awesemo Fantasy Football channel, our Awesemo DFS channel. As Ben mentioned, we have a ton of content coming up, leading you right up until 1 o'clock. And then throughout the day beyond that, of course, as we're back for Sunday night showdowns as well. So this whole thing starts at 9 a.m., which is right here at the top of this hour. You're going to get a ton of content with Josh and Adam at first, all the way through the evening on the Sunday night showdown. So from the DFS channel, the Fantasy Football channel, which myself and Nick Lepre will be on from noon to 1. Ross is going to be all over the place as well. Just make sure you're subscribed. You hit the notification bell for all these shows so you don't miss anything, right? I think we covered it all. Anything you want to get out before we get out?
No, as always, on your way out, subscribe to the channel. Good luck. We'll be back, of course. If you have any questions, you hit us up. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Going to be a great day of football.
At JazzRaz DFS, at Shander Show. Thanks to Tyler. Thanks to BetMGM. And, of course, thanks to you out there for waking up early and being a part of this. Have a great day and good luck.